Good afternoon. Welcome to the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting, July 25th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Please call the roll.
Chair Franco.
I'm present.
Vice Chair Burns.
Here.
Deputy Vice Chair Petrolia. Commissioner Boston. And Commissioner Long.
Here.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Burns.
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Petrolia. Commissioner Boston. Commissioner Long.
Yes.
Chair Franco.
Yes. Now it's time for public comment. Anyone here? Ms. Odom, don't sit down. I'm sure you have a public comment. Anyone who has a public comment, if you'd like to come forward, state your name and address. You'll have 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Anyone? Okay, seeing none. Public comment is closed. To the consent agenda, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chair. Hi, Renee Jadising, Executive Director. We missed our audit presentation.
Oh.
4B.
Well, I guess we have to go to that item.
Yes,
4B.
yes. So
CRA audited financial statement, fiscal year 2021, 2022. You hit it, so I didn't see it. Thank you, sir. Come on up.
We have Scott Montgomery from our auditors here.
Good afternoon. I don't mind you just skipping over it. I did put on a suit for this, so I'm teasing. But good afternoon, Board of Commissioners and CRA Executive Director. My name is Scott Montgomery. I'm from the accounting firm Markham LLP, and my pleasure to briefly go over the CRA financial statements for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022. And hopefully you guys have these in your packet, or okay. So just briefly, the auditor's opinion. It was a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion auditors give, and it's the opinion you want to be associated with. So we audited the government activities major fund and discretely presented component unit. That's the block 60, which is a separate unit that's included into the financials. And our report showed there everything was fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. If you skip over to the management discussion analysis, that gives a brief overview of the comparison from one year to the other, because these are single year presentation financials, and it also describes some of the major changes. So if you didn't want to read all 67 pages, the MD&A is the best part to kind of get an overview. Just some highlights. The CRA's assets exceeded liabilities by $74.3 million, and that's your net position or equity. And that was an increase of about $13 million from the previous year. And the increase was related to an increase in cash. There were projects that either were delayed or not started, so those will be carried over to the upcoming year. And then also the other big change was there's a pronouncement, GASB 87, which changed the treatment of how leases are presented. So previously the CRA has some leases, a couple ground leases and some other building leases, and those previously you would just record the rental income, but under the standards which were effective for this year, you're required to put on a lease receivable and a corresponding deferred inflow of resources, which is like a liability. So you gross up the the statement of net position or the balance sheet, and then the liabilities or the deferred inflow. So it doesn't really affect the P&L or change in activities, but it's just something that we had to implement this year. And then in terms of notes, I guess, we do have some new disclosures regarding all of that, which if you needed to see. Overall, under that standard, there's about $4.4 million due in. This is note 3 under lease receivables that are due over the next 40 years or so, because some of these are very long-term leases. Skipping over to actually the report of the management letter. We didn't have any real issues on that. The prior year findings, there were 2 prior year findings, other post-employment benefits and bank reconciliations. Those were both cleared in fiscal year 22. We didn't see any incidents of those items. And then there was one item that we had a finding, or we wanted to disclose, which was related to the financial close, and this is on like page 62, and that mostly related to the GASB 87, but we did book adjustments related to that, and there was some delay in getting information to make those, calculations and get that recorded, but that was the only thing we noted. And there was no compliance findings or any issues in terms of non-compliance with laws, regulations, or government standards. And that's also in a separate report on page 67. And then the last item, the letter to governance, which was a separate letter, and I don't know if that's in your packet, but we described, this is for governance or the board specifically, and we talk about the new pronouncement, GASB 87, and there were no difficulties encountered during the performance of the audit. There was one uncorrected adjustment, which is a reoccurring adjustment related to compensated absences, and it's they record that on the fund level, but that's really just a government-wide entry. But that's been recurring, but it's really no impact or anything to the financials. And then there were no other audit findings or issues other than the financial close that we noted. Subject to any questions.
Ms. Burns, any questions?
No question.
Mr. Long, any
On
questions?
here.
No questions from me. Sounds like Renee, you and your team did a great job, and
Oh yeah, I
appreciate
also
it.
wanted to thank Renee and her team, and especially Renee, because she was able to facilitate and get all the stuff we needed, and it was very helpful.
Great.
Thank you, Scott. Your team was great to work with as well. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Now, moving on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Can you please call the roll?
Deputy Vice Chair Petrolia, Commissioner Boydson, Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Chair Franco,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Burns.
Yes.
Thank you. We have no old business, but we do have some new business. 9A, the Redevelopment Advisory Committee.
Kim Phan, Legal Advisor. I will be presenting on this item. This is a discussion item concerning the creation of the advisory committee for the CRA. Staff has researched the best practices for advisory committees, studied other CRA advisory committees, and spoken to other CRA staff throughout Florida. And based on the staff's research, staff is presenting to the board suggestions for the board's consideration and input. Subject to the board's input on this matter today, CRA staff can prepare a resolution regarding the creation of an advisory committee for the board's consideration at a future board meeting. After much consideration on what name the committee should have. We came up with the name, the Redevelopment Advisory Committee, or RAC. So going forward, I will say RAC. So the first thing, as you can see on our slide, the mission of RAC would be to advise the CRA Board regarding the implementation of aspects of the Community Redevelopment Plan and encourage community input as needed. The RAC shall consist of 5 members who shall be appointed by the CRA Board and shall serve at the pleasure of the CRA Board without compensation. Each member of the CRA Board shall appoint 1 member of the RAC based on their City of Delray Beach Commission seat, number starting with seat 1. Next slide, please. We felt that it was important that the appointed members of RAC own property in the Delray Beach Community Redevelopment Agency District at the time of appointment, so they would have more invested interest in our community. If the appointed member owns residential property, it must be the appointed member's homestead, as opposed to an investment property. If the appointed member owns commercial property, it must be the appointed member's primary place of business. And the next item is also the members, there should be no more than 1 appointed member of RAC representing one of the 8 sub-areas within the Delray Beach Community Redevelopment Agency District at a given time. And we did this because we didn't want one area to have more representation than other areas. So we thought it would be best if there's 1 representative per area. The next point is that there shall be no more than 1 appointed member of the RAC engaged in the same profession at a given time. And again, we didn't want a committee to have, for instance, like just a whole committee being comprised of realtors or being comprised of just one certain profession. We want diversity on the committee, so we thought it'd be best to limit the profession. The CRA Board shall appoint a chair and vice chair from the RAC members on an annual basis. Next slide, please. So we were thinking that the term of the members of RAC shall be for 1 2-year term, and the term limit will be no member shall be appointed for more than 1 term. And upon completion of the maximum allowable 2-year term of membership, no RAC member shall be eligible for reappointment. But this is completely open. This is just our suggestion, and we're open to the board's input on this so that we have an idea of what the board wants in this committee. Okay. The next point is that the RAC shall serve only in an informational advisory capacity with no voting powers and shall hear matters that are assigned by the CRA Board. And the point of that is because the purpose of RAC is to aid the board. And we're not looking for a consensus from the committee. We're looking actually to hear the voice of each member on the committee, and that goes into the reports. So the report will be prepared by each individual RAC member. That includes their findings and recommendations, where the chair will have a general report, which is just a summary. All reports by RAC may be reviewed by the CRA Board at the CRA Board's sole discretion. The CRA Board shall have the sole discretion to accept, reject, or modify recommendations made by RAC. Next slide, please. The RAC may hold quarterly regular meetings subject to the CRA Board's approval. The quarterly meetings for the next fiscal year shall be scheduled at the end of every CRA fiscal year, subject to the CRA Board's approval. And meetings may be scheduled at other times or canceled, subject to the CRA Board's approval with the required proper notice. The meetings shall be conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order. And also at RAC meetings, the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard, and participation at RAC meetings shall be provided in a manner consistent with, next bullet point, please. The points here. So the members of the public shall be entitled to speak for an amount of 2 minutes, but they can have more time at the discretion of the chair with the consent of the majority of the RAC members. And any members members of the public that make any disruptive or impertinent or slanderous remarks may be asked to leave the meeting. Next slide. And it's also important that members of RAC observe decorum and civility, and that the issues that are raised at RAC meetings are fairly debated and discussed with full participation from the public. With that, it's important that RAC members strive to treat each other with respect, treat members of the public with respect, and also CRA staff with respect. Next slide. A RAC member's absence at 2 or more regular meetings of the RAC during the 12-month period shall be grounds for removal from the RAC. Also, the RAC members serve at the pleasure of the CRA board and may be removed with or without cause at any time by majority vote of the CRA board. Next slide, please. All communications between the RAC or individual RAC members with the CRA board or individual CRA board members shall be in a public meeting on the CRA agenda to promote transparency. In regards to CRA staff, when matters are assigned to the RAC, reliance on CRA staff should be minimized to the extent possible. The RAC and the RAC members may not assign work to CRA staff members, including drafting reports. Research by members of the RAC should be done independently. However, CRA staff will be there to assist RAC members in regards to our projects and the redevelopment plan and just any information that RAC needs in regards to the CRA. The next slide, please. Now, in regards to emails, text messages, social media, and other electronic records, this is the same policy that the CRA board has themselves. In regards to basically, RAC members shall use their city-issued email for sending and receiving emails made or received in connection with official CRA business as defined above, meaning that all things that the RAC members do in relation to RAC is public record and subject to public record. So it's important to keep that in mind. And also regarding social media posts, comments on social media platforms about the RAC matters or issues shall include a disclaimer that the opinions or statement expressed therein are those of RAC members and are not representative of RAC or the CRA board. And finally, last slide. RAC shall be subject to Florida's sunshine laws and also, again, the Public Records Act, but also RAC members shall be subject to the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics, pursuant to a memorandum of understanding between the CRA and the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. Appointees shall be required to complete ethics training within 30 days of appointment. And that's our framework that we've come up with for the RAC.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Burns, any
Yes.
comments or concerns?
Yes, concern, bullet point, reappointment. Okay, term limits and reappointment. No member shall be appointed for more than one term. Explain.
Oh, so this again is one of the open items for the board. We were just thinking that we didn't want the same member to be appointed over and over again, so we were thinking that this will give more of an opportunity for other members of the public to participate on RAC. But again, it's up to the discretion of the board.
Okay, that's fine. But for reappointment, I would like to see, it says, upon completion, the maximum allowable 2-year term, no RAC member can be eligible for reappointment. I would like to see maybe after 1 year absence to be able to be reappointed at a later time.
I think it would have to be 2 if they're going to do appointments every 2 years, right?
Right.
Well, 2 years. Yeah, 2 year, 2 year absence.
Okay, how's that sound to you, Mr. Long?
Well, I actually was going to bring up the reappointment thing. I think that just really to be consistent with our city advisory boards, that allowing someone to serve 2 consecutive terms, especially given that there's a lot of limiting factors to encourage diversity on the board with profession and living in a specific area of the city, it actually might be tricky to get folks in all those seats, especially if we find someone good. I'd love to maybe give them the option to get reappointed for another 2 years. So for me, I was actually going to suggest that maybe we change that language, or at least, consider it, see what you guys thought
That's
of that.
better. That's better.
You approve that?
I sure do.
Okay,
As long as we have consensus.
sure. You have consensus for that.
Cool.
And
What's your next issue?
And the other one was meeting times. Quarterly meetings, too much work to be done, too little time. I think the meeting times need to be increased. It says may hold quarterly meetings, that's for a year. My experience on affordable housing, if you're really trying to make a difference, that's not enough time. I would like to see those increased, maybe 6
So every other month?
every other month at least.
Mr. Long, your thoughts?
I'd be open to that, or a scenario where, based on sort of what we decide the issues are for them to focus on, if we could maybe assign follow-up, like additional meetings, and like once, because I don't want to assign more meetings. We don't even know what we have folks working on yet. We haven't even assigned them tasks yet. But I'd be open to doing more meetings once we know what people are doing, if that makes sense, like a special meeting or like a task force type meeting. But I'm hesitant to like just have meetings if there's nothing going on just yet. But again, if you guys want to do 6 meetings, I'll vote in favor of that, or I'm just throwing out the other option of.
The ability to have 6 meetings as opposed to being held to only having 4 meetings.
Right.
If the meetings are needed.
Right, if we could have optional meetings or something like that, what would that look like
Well,
structurally?
I was thinking we could have the 4, and if we, like you were saying, if we want to have more, the board can say we need to have more meetings. So we could leave it this way and add on to it when you know kind of what's the topics you want to focus on. Because there's always an ability to add more meetings.
As long as there's
Absolutely,
ability to add more
meetings.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that
definitely.
flexibility good for
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
I just figure while we're ramping it up, let's not like schedule too much, and once we get started in it, adding them in, I think makes sense. Cool.
Did you have any other comments or concerns or questions?
I think that was it.
Okay, great, thanks. Mr. Long?
The only thing I was going to bring up was the reappointment thing, and we covered that, so I don't really have anything else. Great job. I like the name RAC. I like acronyms. So.
As opposed to some
The-
Yeah.
Just like letters. It's like a
we
sort
went
of
through a
word.
lot of different options for that, so we wanted to keep it clean. Yes.
Yeah. That looks great. Great work. Thank you.
No problem.
Is there anything else on this item?
Well, I guess just the next step. So we will make this into a resolution. So all of this will be incorporated in there with an exhibit with suggested topics for what we would start working on first. And we'll have that at the next board meeting. Then we'll have that, you all vote on it. And once we have that in place, then we can start seeking, put this application out. Because of the timing, we were potentially thinking about starting in January because we need time to actually put this out. But if we want to do it sooner, we can try to do it a little bit quicker. But if we have our meeting in August, we start looking for people in September. That would have us coming back like October, November to bring this to the board to vote on making appointments. So that's why we were thinking January or even December if we want to push it. But I don't know if we could do it any earlier just because we need time to actually recruit and solicit this and get this out in the streets.
So when would the recruiting start?
Well, our meeting in August, I believe, is August 25th, somewhere at the end. So we would, once we have it, we can put this out. We were thinking we'd have an online platform so people could go in on a website similar to what the city has and put the information in there. So as soon as the meeting's over, we could have it out in the next couple days after that. So it would be before the end of August is when we put it out. And we were suggesting to have it out for 60 days to give people an opportunity to put their name in the hat.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll write this up for the August meeting and we'll have the resolution.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 9B. It's the Fifth Amendment to Commercial Lease Agreement and First Amendment to the Site Development Assistance Funding Agreement for Jerk and Lime at Nicole's House, LLC.
Yes, all right. So Nicole's house, as Nicole's one of our tenants, we entered into a lease with her a couple years ago to put a Caribbean restaurant. Oh, here's Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
one of our buildings on 5th, and I'll have Nicole explain, but that's kind of the backstory. She's looking for an extension to her lease agreement.
Oh, hi, how you doing?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so we got the property last year, but I ended up getting stuck with not the best construction guy, so it could put a delay in me getting the permits. So he submitted for the permit for the demolition, which we thought we was able to revise, but when we went in, after we did demolition to revise the permit, they declined it. Instead, I had to go back and get all new drawings and resubmit for alteration permit. So then we did that, and then when I went back to do that, they declined those paperwork, and then I had to go back and get mechanical added into the additional drawing. So now they approved the electrical, the plumbing, but now I'm still waiting on the mechanical, which I just submitted back yesterday again for that part to be approved. So everything else is done with all the license for the business, but we can't do any electrical or plumbing work because I don't have the mechanical to convert the kitchen. So that's where the delay and the factor come extended from the past construction guy that didn't fulfill all the permit that I needed at the time, and then they declined to revise the other permit, and I had to go and get architect, get all new drawings, all back up again, and resubmit back to the city.
Sorry you had to go through all this.
I mean, it was a learning process, believe it or not. I learned a lot during this whole process, but I think my determination, it's like just pulling through it back and forth, and you know, I had to go to the building department. Like the first drawing I gave them, when I went there, it was literally on the floor, and the lady said to me, "Oh my God, I was supposed to call you a week ago," and I'm like, because I had to say to her, "Those are my paperwork," and she was like, "No, it's not." I said, "Yes, it is. I know what they look like." So, but they were literally sitting there. So if I didn't go in there that day, they would have still been sitting there. So the delay now for the mechanic is because there was some type of memo message that was on the permit. So we was trying to call the office to get it, but we couldn't. They didn't assign someone to that part of it. So when I went down there 2 days ago, that's when they assigned somebody, and then the guy got to him and they cleared the message, and now he submitted new drawings again for the mechanical separate from the other drawings. So he had to go back and make separate drawings for the mechanical to resubmit those back to the city yesterday.
Okay,
So that's where I'm at right now.
gotcha. So Renee, where are we at?
Well, I think Nicole has become a GC through this process. I mean, we've seen the growth that we've seen, and the learning process that we've been with her through this has been extraordinary. And
Yes.
there was definitely an issue with the contractor in the beginning. So the request now is for an extension till January 2024. I don't think it's going to take that long,
No,
though.
because I spoke to Kirk. Kirk can't be here today because his wife had baby last night, 2 days before my birthday. Isn't that nice? So he can't be here today, but he did give a breakdown of the timeline. So the guy that did the architecture for the kitchen, he's the person that's doing the kitchen. So that's a good thing because he was the sign and seal and everything for that. So once he get that mechanical, which he's been calling them, he's on them constantly. So he said maybe within a week or two, once they get the mechanical, then all the kitchen, everything would be done. Because all the demolition, everything else is done. The only license that will not be attained when the restaurant open would be the liquor license, because it takes 1 year. Once I apply for it, which I did, it's a whole year for them to even consider rules and regs. But all the other license that I need for the restaurants is already in Forte. So just getting that mechanical permit, and then everything else can get going.
So this is, we're looking for approval for an extension to the commercial lease, and we also provide a site development assistance grant to Nicole to help with the build-out funding for the space. So that's the request for 2 different amendments. So.
Okay, to the board. Ms. Burns, did you have any questions?
No, I'm just looking, this is on Fifth Avenue.
Yes, this is, 182 Northwest Fifth Avenue, one of our 2 cottages that we have.
Cottages spot?
Yes, the cottages.
State Museum?
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yep,
All right.
trying to
No
activate that
questions.
area. Yep.
No question.
Thank you. Mr. Long?
Hi.
No questions. I'm good to do the extension.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking it out.
Oh my God. The process has been, I learned a lot about myself doing it. And patience. I learned a lot of patience. So I thank you guys for the extension. I appreciate it. And I see you guys soon.
Okay, well,
Okay.
we need a motion first. Is there a
Oh.
motion?
Not yet, don't.
I move.
Don't make us
I
yet.
guess God is with me.
I move to approve 9B, item 9B.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Boydston, Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Chair Franco,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
and Deputy Vice Chair Petrolia.
Passes 3-0. Thank you for having such a good
Blessing.
smile.
Thank you.
And you'll get there.
I'll see you guys soon, okay?
Appreciate it. Have a good afternoon. Item 9C, Lake Ida Church of Christ, 1300 Lake Ida Road.
Yes. Okay. So, representatives from the church approached us recently about potential development on their site. Actually, there's someone here from the church, Miss Gladys. Yes.
Hello.
Oh, hi. A couple people here too. Oh, 4 members of the church are here to join us today. So they were potentially looking to, 5, sorry. Commissioner Burns as well, yes. So 5 members of the church are here with us today. So the church was looking into potentially seeking options of what they could do with redevelopment on the site, and they've expressed interest in affordable housing in this area. So we've been working with them. We spoke to the building department about what options that they could have for redevelopment here, because their main church building is on the left building, and the right, the smaller building, is not. But they were looking at what options they'd have there. So we spoke to the building department about parking. That was a big concern, is if they were to not have any part of that property, what would impact would that be on the parking for the space? But in order to really get into the meat of what would really be done here, we need to spend a little bit of funds to be able to do this. It's not something we've done before. That's why I wanted to bring it up to the board so that everyone's aware. What we would look to do is hire an architect, one of our continuing contract architects, on an hourly basis, to do a few drawings, maybe looking at selling different parts of the church and seeing what impact that would have on parking for the main building. Normally this would be the person doing this, but the church has asked if there's something that we could do to assist in this manner, and we thought that it would be a good opportunity to add to the affordable housing stock in our district by looking into this property. That's the only reason we brought it. So, and it's new. I can do this under my authority, but since it's something new, I wanted to bring it up to the board so that you're aware of what we were looking at. And Miss Gladys is here.
And I just want to say that we're just really pleased to venture on this. It's a kind of partnership thing. We have members in the church who would be happy to have opportunity to have affordable housing on our site, and we're just ready to move forward once we get approval from you guys.
Thank you.
So
Hopefully we do.
This would be a purchase and sale. Once we go
Right.
through this exercise, like I said, normally the person coming to us would kind of have some of this laid out, but they've expressed that they would need assistance in that manner. So I just thought this would be a good opportunity for us to look into it and see what is possible. And the property is zoned for residential already, so we wouldn't have to go through a rezoning. It's just a matter of replat and partitioning if it makes sense. So we would be investing a little bit to see if it makes sense, but I think it's worth it if we could get more land for affordable housing.
Okay. Ms. Burns, any comments or concerns?
All for affordable housing.
Right.
Mr. Long?
Yeah, I'm certainly on board with
Okay.
exploring the different
Thank
options
you.
on that site. So I think it's
Yes.
I think you have 3 thumbs up to
Yep.
go forward.
No problem.
you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Gladys.
Okay. 10, any other business?
is this what we do?
CRA Director update.
Yes, I have things. Okay. So first, I spoke with the city manager recently about the joint workshop that we've been discussing about the possible redevelopment opportunities on West Atlantic Avenue with CRA property and city property. So we're looking at doing a workshop on October 17th. So it's more to come, but this is a city commission date. But when I met with him, he said that there wasn't a lot scheduled for that workshop, so it would be a good opportunity to set it as a joint workshop for us to discuss that. Also, recently I've had members of the public come to us about naming for 98 Northwest 5th Avenue. Historically, this was owned by the Baines family, and Edmund's Barbershop was there. So we contacted Mr. Baines' grandson, and he didn't have a lot of information about the property, but he knows his grandfather owned it. So we also reached out to Spady and Historical Society just to get some more information about the ownership of the property and kind of make a historical record. And they gave us some information, not a lot. So we don't really have a name for the building. We've been calling it 98 on 5th. That was just our internal workings of a name, but it's something that we would like to bring to the board at a later date to discuss. I also spoke with the city planning department to find out if there's any guidelines that the city uses in naming things. There isn't really anything there. So I thought we could come up with our procedure if we want to name the building how we've done this. I believe in the past we've had task force. I think we can put together a pretty good history of justifying why we'd name it after the individuals who owned it. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. It's something that we are looking into. And when I spoke with Spady Museum and Historical Society, there wasn't a large history on this property, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to actually take some oral history and add in what we're doing to the property. And I got the permit cards from back in the 60s when the building was renovated, that we could actually put something together. So if anyone 50 years from now is looking into the site, they can actually pull something up, because we haven't been able to find a concise record of it because it's not a historically designated building or anything like that. But I think what's happened to now makes it historic and it's well known. So we would like to venture down that road. More to come, but I just wanted to update you on that opportunity, because I think it's a really important thing to name it after the individuals who really built the building and were there for a very long time. I have more. All right. Speaking of commercial, we just had a groundbreaking for 95 Southwest 5th Avenue. Thank you to those who joined us. Here's some images for the groundbreaking.
3 of us, imagine that.
It's like we're the only CRA.
Yes, same individuals here. So we are moving forward on this project, and it should take about a year to complete. Thank you for joining us.
We're in the same
Great
outfit.
afternoon.
And the same
Embarrassing.
Yeah. No, I was
Same
wondering-
that's the same outfit.
I had my blue shirt on.
uniforms, yes.
Embarrassing.
Where's your hat?
I need that.
We have it. All right. Next, we had our first CRA social at our office on July 20th. It was great. We had a lot of people come out, about maybe 20 people or so around our conference table, had a really riveting discussion about what we do, why we do it, answered a lot of questions. We just took it lasted about over 2 hours, and we just took questions from everybody. We probably could have stayed there until 10, but we do really want to encourage people to keep coming out, keep coming and talking. This is just an opportunity to meet us, talk to us. Not everybody can come out between 8 to 5 at our office to sit and chat with us, so we're going to have this opportunity for people to come and sit and just chat with us. So the next one is going to be on August 10th at the 98 Northwest 5th Avenue building. And then the last one for the year will be October 19th at the Arts Warehouse. And then on to the 98 Northwest 5th Avenue building. So we are also going to have our ribbon cutting on this day. We thought it'd be a good opportunity, since we're going to have the social, just do the ribbon cutting at that time. So I believe I checked schedules for the commissioners, so we'll have a good representation of our board there as well with us. So we'll have the ribbon cutting at 5, followed by the CRA social at 6 o'clock. So please, members of the public, join us. It's going to be a really great opportunity to see the space and tour with us. And Art and Jazz. This is the West Atlantic Art and Jazz. It was rescheduled from earlier in the summer due to weather, but it is now scheduled for August 23rd from 6 to 9. This is the one where the CRA is going to be there, so we'll have a whole section. I think we got an Airstream, a whole little CRA space where you can come and learn, and we'll have stations to learn about CRA. So I talked to Laura about ways to make this really be like a good outlet for us to share information about what we're doing. So we'll be there, strong presence at Art and Jazz on West Atlantic. And the Green Market is coming to a close on Saturday, but please save the date. The Winter Green Market is starting October 21st.
No burgers for 3 months.
No burgers for 3 months.
That third guy's the best.
Yes. And thank you. That's all I have.
Great.
Right.
Kim, anything?
Nope, I don't have any comment.
Christine, you've been so talkative. Anything from you?
No, just thank you to those who turned in their executive director annual evaluations. As soon as we get them all in, it'll be on the next available CRA agenda.
Great. Any board comments?
I had a quick question.
Sure, please.
So we had some preliminary discussions about the CRA plan and like maybe starting on updating that. I was just wondering where we were with that whole process.
So we are at that process now. We interviewed the new commissioners to our team. So our consultant now is working on that. Our goal is to hopefully have it wrapped up hopefully before the end of this year. So it's in progress. Yeah, we're almost finished with that because we've been working on this for a while. We paused because of COVID.
Yeah.
And we picked it back up, and then there was new commissioners joined us. So we did our interviews, and it's back to the consultant to finalize.
Excellent.
But it'll be finished in a few months.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm hoping that maybe after that we could discuss the set transformation plan update as well. Maybe that's something our new RAC board could help us out with too. Who knows?
Yes, I think once we have that plan wrapped up, then I think it'll free us up space time wise to be able to look to other large projects like that. But we're almost finished.
Perfect. That sounds
All right.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for a long, tedious, a great meeting. You guys are doing a great job. You know, the ribbon cutting was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
All the activities you're doing for the community, and just keep doing a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comments, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See?
Would have been. Talk to you.